Good evening, freedom fighters. It's 11:28 p.m. East Coast time, October 26, 2024. As we're looking at one of the biggest manipulations off California coast we've seen in quite a while. This was this morning, 12 hours ago. Massive chemtrail geoengineering operation ongoing. I want to go over a very good radio podcast that took place, I believe, also in California. They're discussing the dangers of these operations. This has nothing to do with flight patterns. This is a geoengineering attack controlling this weather system. There is nothing normal about our weather anymore. Maybe a new potential here in the Gulf. That will be in the Gulf. Into thin air. Brought up all the chemtrails out here today, which I had seen. I just haven't been really making any videos here lately. But I want to go over this very important radio podcast that talks about all these toxic chemtrail operations that are ongoing as we speak. This is live. Stand by for an incredible radio podcast. This is a shortcut from the hour and 30 minutes of the 100-year history of weather modification. But this was very important, and I wanted to share it with y'all.
Tonight we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the sickness behavior. We're going to talk about why people are having these problems. We're going to talk about how the trails are affecting us, because they are now. There's no doubt. Even the EPA said so. They just made mention of it about, a couple months ago, actually, last summer. They admitted it. The EPA said it's affecting you. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clay Lewis. Listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
In the United Kingdom, they just published their mortality statistics for 2016. And you'd expect, okay, what's top three? Cancer, heart attack, stroke. Always has been. Number one, dementia. Number one. Which, of course, includes Alzheimer's, which is caused by aluminum. They found carbon nanotubes in Parisian lungs. In Turin, half of the children had severe DNA damage from nanoparticulates. And there's a study that came out recently showing how nanoparticles interfere with the nuts and bolts of the internal workings of your cells and cause rheumatoid arthritis, which is just one of the very many autoimmune diseases we're all coming down with. We don't need any more evidence. We need to get this out into the public consciousness and say, oh, hell no.
I wanted to let you know that there was a study that was released back in the summer of 2016, the Environmental Protection Agency. They declared that emissions from jet engines endanger the health of human beings and the environment. They pointed out they were investigating the possibility that lingering contrails, this is what they called them, lingering contrails contribute to dangerous heat waves, more powerful storms, lengthening of fire seasons, and other dangerous consequences. Well, there's a new study about air pollution that's revealing that, once again, the particulate, the aluminum and barium that we talk about in the trails, is creating dementia. For older women, breathing air that is heavily polluted by metals and other sources of fine particulates nearly doubles the likelihood of developing dementia, and the cognitive effects of air pollution are dramatically more pronounced in women who carry a genetic variant known as APOE, that's APOE-E4, which puts them at higher risk for developing Alzheimer's disease.
There are so many things going on, and it's because these nanoparticles are disrupting the workings of our cells. Our bodies attack ourselves, and it goes nuts. But just concentrating on what's being sprayed is only half the story. The electromagnetic aspect of this is devastating. The Russians were using the woodpecker program back in the 80s. They could change
it right here.
Yeah, because it's very long wavelength. It travels a very long distance. And it's such simple technology. Our body's resonant frequency is 5 hertz. All you have to do is just point that at someone, and if you pick someone up and shake them at 5 times a second, they'll fall apart. There's so much research on the cognitive, physiological, and other effects of electromagnetic radiation on our bodies and our minds. And, put a burrito in the microwave, it does something. You'll often find you just be going about along with your day, and then suddenly, bam, you're extremely tired, you just have to sleep. And you'll find a lot of people at the same time will have those things. You'll have people getting similar like muscle spasms in different parts of the body all over the place. I mean, it's full spectrum warfare. I mean, the electromagnetic, the spraying, all these sort of things. In Scotland last year, between 2014 and 2015, the death rate from respiratory failure went up like 14% in 1 year. That's statistically significant. I mean, why aren't they asking, why, is this massive jump? Italy's death rate overall went up 11%. This is carnage.
So when you're looking at the spraying, it could be private contractors doing it,
Sure.
weather modification, it could be a number of things that they're doing. Geoengineering, of course, Matt, he was the one that introduced me to the idea of geoengineering being used and doing the studies of geoengineering. That's what we talked about the last time you were on the program. Well, you heard that now the bees are an endangered species.
Exactly.
I was reading about that the other day, that they now have made them an endangered species, and that's frightening. Because before we had what would they call that, hive...
colony collapse disorder.
Yeah, colony collapse disorder. They said the colony collapse disorder could be because of, Roundup, Monsanto, you name off all these things. But think about this. The bees are dying of the same type of problems that we're having, and that is dehydration, not getting enough water, not having enough water in our bodies, having diseases that are creating this sick behavior that we're having, and the bees get it too. Even people who have good night's sleep are not feeling it. They wake up tired, they wake up dragging, and so what else could it be but something environmental, something toxic that we're being exposed to?
It's got to be above government because it's global.
Right. They're doing it all over the world.
Yeah. China, Russia, everywhere.
And then that's the thing. If we don't know who, then we don't know all of the answers for them, and they can't make a solid opinion. One of my biggest frustrations is the line, "They wouldn't do that to us."
I've heard that too. Why would they do that to us? Because they have families too. And I tell them, well, I have a genetic disorder that makes me prone to cancer. And why? Because they were testing nuclear weapons in the West Deserts of Nevada, St. George, Cedar City area in Utah. My family was subjected to that radiation, which caused some DNA problems, and it got passed down to me.
And your son.
Yeah, and my son. They did that because they felt that was more important than the lives of people.
Spend a few bucks, get your rainwater analysis, you can get your hair analyzed, and I have footage of these sprayers, and they show up on flight radar. I don't know any airline that does not spray. They aren't told, oh, by the way, turn this switch when you get to a certain point. It's all done centrally. There's plenty of patents where the substance actually gets injected into the exhaust. I mean, there's a US Navy patent called the powder contrail. There's so much freaking evidence. It's insane. Technocracy, this is a crackpot idea dreamed up in the 1930s. They wanted to replace the economic system with an energy-based thing. But like if you have a gold-based economy, you know how much a loaf of bread is worth in compared to the amount of gold there is. But with energy, you have to know how much energy is being stored, transferred, whatever, at all times. Hence, smart meters, smart every freaking thing. Reject it. The official line on this whole thing is, oh, we're all going to die from global warming, and we might just have to spray sulfates into the sky to reduce global warming. David Keith, Ken Calder, and Alan Roebuck are the three main guys who go out to do this stuff. They'll only talk about sulfates, but their own papers say actually sulfates don't work. They stick together, they fall out of the sky. Instead, you got to use nanoparticulate aluminum, barium, strontium, magnetite, and so on. And this character David's research, according to US Code 50. Section 1520A, I think, it's legal to spray chemical and biological warfare on a civilian population as long as you call it research. So it's banned as warfare, but you can do it in your own populations. So I think all the spraying is generally done by people's own militaries.
What they're doing is they're establishing a geoengineering governance regime. It's a self-proclaimed regime. They asked for papers to identify things like, should we even involve the UN? Should we take into consideration human health impacts? What role will public perception and opinion play while we establish this solar geoengineering governance regime? self-titled regime. So Patrick and I, we independently submitted papers. I hired a PhD. My paper delved into the human rights aspect, that we have the right to environmental decision-making participation. Both of our papers were, of course, rejected. It is their plan to do full-scale deployment. They claim that all of the research that we've been seeing, these grid patterns, are research. They're admitting to it. The chemtrails, the geoengineering, the solar radiation management. Okay, and now you can even look up the Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative, SRMGI. Okay, it's an initiative to govern their solar radiation management, which is chemtrails, which is geoengineering. So these people are meeting, 24 scientists behind closed doors, to develop the plan for the regime to take hold to go full-scale deployment. Some days don't have chemtrails, right? Some days are clear. And really, the more clear days you get in a row, the more likelihood it is that you're going to get a grid pattern coming up. But this irregular pattern of appearance, where you not only have no lines in the sky, but you also don't have the air traffic, okay? Listeners, feel free to look up at your sky, look at that air traffic, see those days where there's nothing going on. And this irregularity in the appearance it's the clue, it's the first clue for the newbies. Chemtrails are also called solar geoengineering. It's also called solar radiation management. It's also called stratospheric aerosol injections. Okay, and what they like to do is they like to confuse us with the terminology. It's all one thing, right? It's all chemtrails, it's all geoengineering, it's all solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injections, whatever word you want to give it, it's all treason. It's very, very obvious that chemtrail does not behave like an actual cloud formation. It forms out and fades into a milky haze. All right? Irregular pattern of appearance, the number of trails seen simultaneously at a given time. When you're sitting out there and it's a normal day and then all of a sudden a dozen planes show up and grid the sky, whereas you've seen 3 planes all day, something is going on there. That's it. It's that simple. How come all of a sudden all the planes show up at once and zigzag the sky? We got broken trails, all right? Things are going on where they're mixing chemicals in the sky. They're using the atmosphere as a laboratory. That is a quote from NASA. Using the atmosphere as a laboratory. Okay, the exhaust is often coming where the engines are not. Okay, this wakes the people up. In 1983, we had 50 companies, right? 90% of the media. 1983, 50 companies encapsulated the 90% of the media. Now it's been consolidated down to 6 companies. Those 6 companies are owned by just a couple families. Everything is controlled. They hand a script to the entire nation. And your local broadcaster is reading something that was planned to build your mental construct to control the way you think about everything.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
Well, child's happiness is priceless, right? Especially on a birthday.
A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday. A child's happiness is priceless, especially on a birthday.
And child's happiness is priceless, especially on their...
Civil society actors that, quote, manifest the will of the public. They call these astroturf because almost everything has been co-opted. They contemplated how they were going to convince us that we need solar geoengineering to block out the sun. They say society is lousy at strategy, but we are not. A few suggested that to shift the conversation in productive ways, geoengineering will be characterized publicly as a terrible choice. We'll start the conversation by introducing them this problem, and we'll tell them that it's a horrible idea. Problem, reaction, solution. So here they come out immediately. Geoengineering, a horrible idea. Geoengineering climate fixes could harm billions. During this short time frame, Forbes magazine, Washington Post, chemtrails are not real, showing a picture of chemtrails. So if you're new to this, you're being educated by your trusted news sources, okay? And they're telling you there's nothing to see up there, don't worry. But wait in 6 months, they're gonna tell you they've got a cure for global warming, and it's identical to what they have proven to you does not exist. Geoengineers to spray sun-reflecting chemicals from a balloon. They think that we're so dumb that we see the lines coming out of the planes, we see these rare halos going around the sun, and then all they have to say in the newspaper is, well, we're gonna use balloons, don't worry. Geoengineering gets green light from federal scientists, 2017. March 25th, we've got new clouds for you, 12 of them. 12 new clouds? And how does this correspond to this entire agenda push? And the name for these vapor trails, Homo mutatus, which literally means man-made.
The World Meteorological Organization has decided to add 11 new cloud classifications. That's to their international cloud atlas, and this is a big deal because it is the first time they've added anything in 30 years.
Forget being on cloud 9, we are on cloud 12 because that's how many new types of clouds have been added to this historic update coming from meteorologists. I'm a little biased, right? Exciting stuff, guys. All right, so the new types include the Volatus or roll cloud, which has been designated as a whole new species. You can see it gets its name from this long horizontal tube-like shape. Next one up, we have the cavum or the hole punch cloud. This big circular gap is sometimes caused by aircraft taking off and landing. Very easy to see, right? Makes sense there. And we also have the spiritus. These are gorgeous. It's actually my favorite. It's kind of looking like it waves while you're underwater. I mean, these are actually beautiful. I mean, check these out. And then finally, we also have the big surfer waves of the Fluxus cloud. So beautiful, right? There's just a sample of the new additions that we have. Meteorologists, sky watchers, daydreamers, we're all geeking out, guys.
The meteorologists are all part of that same program. They're all getting handed a script and they're told to read it and they have no choice. And already it's time for governance, okay? This is something that they just shoved down our throats for the past few months, and they say they're gonna be doing it in the future, and they say don't worry that it's not real 6 months ago. Now they're already talking about how are they gonna govern it. They're pushing this agenda full speed ahead. They're already talking about how to govern something that we're still slowly waking up to, that they're going to be doing it to us publicly. This very small group of globalists claim that they have the exclusive rights to saving us and that we don't get it and they do. This is all of our skies. This is all of our air. This is our children's future. Everybody is involved here, all right? There was a time when people got pissed and they did something about it and they made things change, okay? They know that they can program you through social media, okay, and we can't let that happen. It's up to us to carry this information forward. It's up to us to be the change. And if we don't do it, we're not going to have any sun. Thank you.
For in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's futures, and we are all mortal.
Geoengineering, chemtrails, forced vaccinations, population control, weather modification, war games. We have not given consent. You cannot spray the atmosphere with toxic chemicals and expect no ramifications. These chemicals go into our food, our air, and our water supply. Ill effects of these have been recorded as headaches, flus, breathing problems, skin problems, and my major concern is Alzheimer's disease. Aluminium causes nerve damage. Fluoride in the water works with aluminium in the air to cross into our brain. At this moment, about 24,700 young people around the age of 30 and above have Alzheimer's. In the next 10 years, 400,000 people in Australia will have dementia. It is now the third leading cause of death in Australia. About 10 years ago, I did a degree in environmental management. It's concerning to me that in that short time, we were brainwashed to believe in population control, that our Earth could not sustain itself if we didn't intervene. The Earth has enough resources for everyone. We need to change our thinking, but also change our actions. If you have never heard of these terms before, then please start looking at the sky and make your own decision. It's not like they can hide the spraying.
It's a really good film, my friends, and boy, do we start needing to speak up in our countries. We need to start having major rallies. Let me know if y'all finished that out. It's a really long video, and I just wanted to cut a piece of it out. I went on Rumble to go back to the original, but they have filled it with commercials, and I can't get rid of the commercials on it, so I went to my page. Oh, the censorship is tightening. They've totally made it where my warriors on my page cannot see me. Barely a couple hundred views now. Twitter's the same. Over 20,000 warriors on there, and nobody sees my material. Thank you to the ones that follow us closely. We need to stop this madness. We are losing our planet, and we have lunatics that thinks they need to kill us off like World War II was planned. Kill 100 million and take over everything. This time, hundreds of millions will die of starvation. It's already planned. They love to hear our screams. Sad to say, it's just like the Roman days. You don't think they can get horrible. They slaughter thousands of people and animals for fun. Commercial fishermen standing by. I hope y'all got a lot out of that. It's very important. Radio and a couple other things added on there. Radio broadcast, and it was like a very good lecture, which I would love to have some. I'm just a fisherman though, and I've got to learn how to deal with the public. Little at a time, I guess. Maybe we can open their eyes. Standing by. Thank you to everybody and your comments. They're truly awesome. Keep them coming. Commercial fisherman out.